Hello there, Crackbook, and then over onto YouTube later on, and all above the social medias. Amber just asking if notifications have gone up. So if you have got your notifications switched on, then obviously you will get heads up that I'm live. I'm not one of these coaches that is here being paid, so I don't have to turn up when you tell me to. I turn up when I tell me to. So anyway, the subject of tonight is can't be asked doing the live, but can't be asked doing much lately. But that's the joys of depression or grief, the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. The challenge with people like myself and many others who are in this network is we don't get to complete all of these stages that psychology have studied, that people who have gone through death or loss of job or loss of home, anything that they consider is a loss, is grief. The worst case scenario being obviously losing a child, the death of a parent, death of a partner, sibling. But with this comes a burial and well, not in all cases, of course, but in the majority of cases comes a burial, a seal, a ritual, and a time of healing, and obviously what they consider the stages of grief. So obviously there's usually some form of denial that, you know, maybe they're going to wake up, maybe this is all a bit of a dream, maybe that Maria's just saying hello, just hello to Caroline, Claire, Amber, Claire and Maria. Hope you're all well. So tonight is Disenfranchised Grief, and I am stuck in the cycle of depression because obviously I don't get to come to acceptance. I don't get to come to acceptance until in our level of grief. This is very, very different to people who have buried a child or a parent, etc., because unless there has been some medical neglect and there isn't, you know, the majority of the time there is closure. Unless there hasn't been closure, I can get into a whole different subject, different book, different story, about, you know, unresolved issues prior to death. That's another heading, another day. But I'm talking here about disenfranchised grief and getting completely stuck in the cycles of depression and pushing yourself through those and having to get up and do that same cycle every fucking day until you get that form of closure. And closure for me is to know that I've done the best that I can for Aaron and Faith, and to know that I have done the best that I could with the knowledge that I have, and that changes every day. So every day I learn something new, something different, something that if I'd known differently back then would have made it just a bit different. So until I have applied everything that I know that I could do, then I don't get any closure to sort of say, okay, I'm going to have to go and get on with my life until, per se, that Aaron and Faith come and find me. And as a mother, it's very difficult to get to that sealed deal where you go, okay, I have to move on. It's not like a relationship. It's not like a relationship ending or a divorce. You know, you go through a divorce and you both agree that this is the end of that relationship, and comes the parting of the clothes and the items and all of those things, and then you sit down and you sort of say, hey, you know, okay, this didn't work, that didn't work, but hey, we've either got children together or we haven't got children, and we can go, yeah. And then you might, as a woman, I can only talk from a woman's point of view, I can't talk from a male's point of view, I can talk from a woman's point of view. You might eat lots of ice cream, you might you might get a little bit fat, and all of a sudden you might decide, that's it, fuck it, I'm going to restart my life and get on with it. It's not like that in something where there isn't closure. It's exactly the same as a relationship with no closure. If you haven't got a relationship closure, it's a fucking dynamic fucking stress. That's, again, another conversation, another live. But in this particular situation, if you, like me, have a box of paperwork that sits in the cupboard that isn't in order, and you know you haven't had the correct opportunity to present yourself in such a way that if people would just listen without you banging their head against the brick wall or having to force it down their throats and lead the horse to water, drag the fucking horse down to water and fucking drown it in the water until you know, it starts fucking drowning, do you know what I mean, and wants to get up and, you know, eventually needs to drink some water. You know, to not have actually had that opportunity to present it in such a way that it just makes it so fucking common sense why this all sort of went so wrong, keeps you in a bit of a cycle. And sometimes it's not even what you think is getting to you that is getting to you. And it's really difficult when you've also, not only am I going through my experience in myself, I'm going through it in quite a public, raw way, because it gives people the opportunity to point holes, ask questions, show support, don't show support. And also it means it makes it very, very harder to make my own decisions and choices. And it's always been like that for me anyway. And it's a big challenge that I have as somebody who hasn't just dealt with grief in this situation. I have dealt with mnemonic amounts of grief, even dealing with the grief of losing my passions and my interest to my physical body, to father, mother, blah, 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 germination, blah, 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 divorce, house, moving, it comes in any way, shape or form. And it's something that within this situation, sometimes when actually things are really good and we're moving forward and stuff like that, that's when the big cloud can come in and sort of say, hey, you know. And if you've got a lot of people around you that constantly remind you or want to dampen things down, or, you know, take away your joy at that particular time, or say, hey, why are you happy at this particular point? Aren't you meant to be, you know, sort of like grieving your children? And it's exactly the same when somebody is healing from an injury, or overcoming alcoholism or drugs or something like that, or anything, where all of a sudden somebody sort of goes, aren't you meant to be struggling, sort of thing. Oh, money is a great example. I thought you were poor if you go and spend something that's a little bit luxury or something like that. There's always going to be somebody out there who keeps you going, and makes it very, very, very difficult for anybody to sort of move on. Hello there, Linda. Just a quick hello, just sort of talking about the challenges of moving through the cycle of grief when there is no closure. And how it can keep you going backwards and forwards between all of the different sort of psychological terms of grief, and the battles that that can sort of create, which I haven't really got into in depth. But, you know, myself at the moment challenged because, you know, you can, one of the challenges that I have is I still don't know why I lost my kids, because I can go through my paperwork 100 million, 1,000 times, and I can find probably loads of different things that they've written, but my interpretation and understanding will always be different. And my battery is going, just 2 seconds. Oh, I've disconnected my plug somehow, 2 seconds. I'm going to have to unplug my plugs in. Yeah, so anyway, I was basically saying that it's not always easy to just come on here and just ramble some shit, do you know what I mean? And sometimes it's a process of, you can walk around talking to yourself, I suppose, to get out of your head and talk to yourself, and it doesn't really get anywhere. And people think you're mad, you're crazy, God's got mental health issues, which was my life this morning. And it's very, very difficult to actually go through the stages and definitely get backwards and forwards into the cycle when you have people around you, especially when you've got so many people around you, because there's always somebody who, sorry, I'm just been asking a question. Kelly, what reason did they give you for taking your kids away? They didn't. This is the challenge. So it's a complete long story, different thing. There are actually 6 videos that actually complete my whole sort of story, and I think the other day I did one on FEA where I actually went through the first ever court functions on it, where I read lots of different things, and then there's even lots more. It was all fundamentally based on my foster care file, so it flipped over being an EDS mother to you know, something completely different. So different conversation, different story. But and even just then, prime example, that question I get asked every day, and it makes it very difficult to deal with your getting up in the morning that I'm facing today, and then facing that question each and every day. Because if I go to a nursery group with Elijah and Shiloh, I always get asked, not so much now that there's 2 boys, but when it was just Elijah, it was always, is this your only child? And that would provoke a conversation immediately to, nope, this is not my only child. I still get it with Elijah and Shiloh, and obviously as time goes on, when I tend not to get to know people so per se, but within my local community they all tend to know anyway because of what happened with Elijah out the front. I wasn't the one that brought it out into my community here. It was what the police did with Elijah, and when I was pregnant with Shiloh out the front, that brought it out. So you know, when you've put your head above the parapet and you live potentially a public life, because obviously I don't walk down the street without people knowing who I am and what my story is, or people can do. So if you're interacting with, even if I went for a job and they choose to Google me, straight away this is what they're getting. So not all people would want to employ somebody who goes on to Google and does this, and trying to explain that actually it doesn't represent me, because one, I'm not admin on it. One, I'm not the energy and frequency that's coming through it all the time unless I'm here live. And 3, it doesn't represent me as an individual, because it doesn't show you what I do with my time, my children with my time. It only shows you what I take photographs of, because, you know, it's not like a film crew is running around with me and you're seeing from a different point of view and an avenue. So you can't really make a perception of somebody based on their social media account anyway. And unless people are coming on live and showing themselves, most people don't have their real identity on there. And a lot of people either rant on them and take out their anger and then fuck off and get on with their day, or, you know, they just use it to maybe post up a couple of things that other people have shared out that have been significant to them. So it's a difficult one. So, but anyway, I said that to myself that I would commit myself to getting myself back up to where I was with social media in 2010, 11 and 12. So where I would have been predominantly now. So, I mean, luckily I don't have to deal with so many people here, but with people who do what I do, then they deal with hundreds and thousands of millions of people watching live all at the same time, and that's a little bit too much for me at the moment. So I quite like that it's a little bit more intimate, with only a few strangers peeping in and getting my family, I suppose, used to what is coming. And they're going to have to get used to the fact that, you know, my story is told, my gag is broken, they never did it. They weren't the ones to do it, and yes, it will show who helped, who hindered, and basically unravel everything that's gone on, because that's sort of my way of getting a little bit of closure, which is why I'm going to work with you all this July on basically doing the same. And you don't even have to put the book out and publish it if you don't want to. It can just be your way of writing it all up, that if anything ever happens to you and your children don't get the opportunity to meet you in person because time's gone by, then there is your version of the truth written for them, and you can just do it as a keepsake for them if need be, but still join us in writing these diaries and video logging. And they don't even have to be public. That's the thing. You just because I'm sitting here and doing it public, and because I'm sort of sitting here, and it doesn't mean that's the way that you have to deal with it. It just means that it works for me, and it might not necessarily work for you, but you can still take some stuff that I say that might work for you. It doesn't mean I'm right about anything or everything, or even some stuff. It's just me being me, dealing with my way. And if you want to sit there and go, she's mad, she's crazy, she's got mental health issues, yeah, I think they call that discrimination against mental health, which makes that bullying. So, you know, I've got to go through what I've got to go through. I'll get to where I need to get to in the time that I get there. I can't heal any faster. Nobody can make me heal faster. Nobody can make me get over this any faster. Telling me if I'm doing something from triggers and traumas doesn't help. And, you know, but for you guys, there isn't much that I can really do for you for this July awareness, because I can't be on the phone 24/7 ringing the MPs and doing stuff. Somebody else is going to have to pick that up. I can't be ringing the judges' offices and headquarters and solicitors' office and stuff, and dropping off and going to places. I can't be at banner drops. I can't be at road blocks. So I can't be out there taking direct action in the way that people that currently have nothing to lose do. I can't be one of the arrestables. I can't be one of the soldiers. My fucking body wouldn't even allow me to do it. You know, so I can't be, and I'm not one of these people to say, hey, I can't be there, but I'll be there in spirit. I can be there in the way that I can be there, and this is the way that I can be there. And if from this you go do something that does something, or what I'm hoping for you all is, if you put these books together, and it's your story, I'm not writing your story for you, you're writing your own story, but if you put it together in a book, and you know, I will open it, you can all just bring your books to the one table and I'll do all the marketing and PR for you. I haven't got a problem with all of that. We're putting it through Amazon anyway. Then you should ultimately be able to raise the funds. You should be able to raise the funds for meeting your needs, in terms of you should be able to meet the needs of land, furniture, property, clothing, resources, equipment, legals, whatever, just from the sales of your own book. Do you know what I mean? So you might as well, if you're wanting to go down that road, that doesn't mean you have to, but there are people that are. I'm sharing out some people that have already started writing theirs, and building up. And on the website, Faces of Forced Adoption, there is a whole thing there. In there, it's already written up, ready. You can just write your own chapters. It's just there, and then I can just, you know, go through edit and help you write them in ways that need to be done if you want to. So it's all there. So just make sure you log on, get registered, get subscribed, get, you know, all programmed up, and it's all there. It's no different than the hearing crack book, got all the same systems, all the same functions. So you've got to go on and put all that input in. So and yeah, like I said, just keep it as a memoir, or keep it as how to write your case, or keep it to write a book. It's up to you. So whatever you feel you need to do to get through what you need to do. So what I'm going to be promoting a lot of is health. So, and I'm going to be doing this myself while Dean's here. He kicks my ass on this stuff. You know, so eating right, getting my body right, getting more water into me, getting back onto fruits and juices, things like that. Getting coffee out my system for one thing, so I'm not up at stupid o'clock in the morning. And just getting life in balance with health, education, activities that I want to do, passions, music, things like that. And also getting a little bit more balanced in where I am here and how I'm doing it, because don't forget, this all started from an angry, pissed off mum who got gagged and wouldn't shut the fuck up. So she's sort of moved on now. So anyway, I'm not staying on here long. I'm very tired. Luckily, Dean's been here, so I've been able to sleep this morning. And I wanted to get to bed ages ago, so just sort of wanted to get you to have a look at something called disenfranchised grief. If, like me, you're a parent of forced adoption, long-term foster care, denied contact, parent alienation, even if it is a death of grief, you have every right to go through these stages. You have every right to have the right, correct people around you to support you through it. You have every right to understand yourself, what it is that you're going through. So when you hit these plateaus and these points, that you learn the tools and skills to help you override it. It might be that you physically override it by getting a bike. You know, you might actually buy yourself a bike and go, right, I'm in these stages, so I'm getting on my bike and I'm going to go and ride and ride and ride until I'm fucking sitting in a field somewhere, feeling grateful for, you know, where I am, even if it can't be for what you've lost, but for what you've currently got. And me, roller skates, or dancing, music, whatever. And you know, there's something that you can do that can help you become the person that your children need you to be in the first place. Do you know what I mean? Or, like I've always said, when they come looking for you, they'll watch you for potentially years or months you know, before. And if they're seeing somebody who's out, pissed as a fart, being a lark, drunk, you know, it's going to make it difficult to approach. But if they see somebody and they're going, yeah, that's my mum, that's my dad, and they can understand that, you know, you're approachable, then, you know, it won't be so difficult. So, and you want to be in a situation that when your kids turn up, you go, look, you know, I've had your bedroom ready for you, and I've still got some of your bits from when you were a kid. So rather than mourn and keep it as a shrine, keep it as the day that, you know, maybe your grandkids come with them, and you can go through all these sort of things with them. Do you know what I mean? Move with the times with it and prepare it for when they're older and coming in, but just keep those little significant items. And if, like me, you've lost all of that, you know, and I've got little bits of keepsakes, then, you know, then prepare for that day. And I've got to do this as well. And it's a journey. It's a new chapter every day. I left it up there. It's a new chapter every day. So tomorrow will be a whole different journey. It's Tuesday. So if I'm not here doing everything that I'm usually doing, then, you know, please remember, this isn't just about me. This, you know, it wasn't just created for my children, it was created for yours too. So it's about you picking up the banner, you carrying the red X, you getting out there with the message too, you writing to your MPs, you writing to the barristers and everybody, you putting your bits together, you know, and you being informed. And it's not about going out and, you know, and denying what you've been through. It's not about going out in anger. You know, it's not even about bargaining with people, and it's not about bringing depression to other people, and not even about acceptance or tolerance of this. It's about bringing truth and balance and why this system is going so wrong. And a lot of it just comes down to stigma. It literally just comes down to the stigma of mental health, the stigma of disability, the stigma of whatever a person is going through, the stigma of having social services in your life if you are somebody with a disability, and the fact that the murky waters of child abuse is being murkied with support for families, and it's just got too murky, and it needs to be very separate now. But we are under a two-tolerance state. It was all planned this way. It's just about you being educated, informed to miss the gaps, so you don't end up being somebody like me and others in disenfranchised grief. So to protect your family, take back your heart, mind and soul. And yeah, fuck knows, we need a real therapy centre here in the UK. We really do. I think people have a right to offload and get some counselling and some healing and and things like that. I think we as the UK have been through a lot of trauma. I think a lot of countries have been through a lot of trauma, and I think it's time that rather than all these labels that we all get, that people just recognise that it's just trauma and how we overcome that trauma and move between pain and pleasure. And me overcoming trauma is just pushing myself through talking about it a bit more. Not quite there yet to talk about what really triggers me off, but music, roller skating, and bringing back some of that identity of me that has gone, not just to this, but gone to me as being a mother. As a mother, we lose a lot of our identity as well. So, and that also creates a grief, which is why not a lot of mums are happy mums and miserable mums, because they lose themselves to their partners and their children and to society, and they get a bit rattled about it. And it's time that we were who we were meant to be, and then we can be better partners and better mothers and better community people. Do you know what I mean? So the more we are our true selves and in our true passions and giving, the more we have to bless others. So if not, we're just depressed watching EastEnders. So anyway, I shall catch up with you tomorrow, hopefully. It's the 2nd of July now, so like coming up to 3 o'clock in the morning. So I haven't got my red X on. Usually I'm on the dot. I haven't, because I haven't found my red pen. And we should be selling Sharpies right now to make money. So why we are not offloading and selling Sharpies, preparing everybody for this. And don't forget, in January, this is the lead up for January, guys. We have got to get ourselves on the track with End It and human and child trafficking, so we can be recognised as state kidnap victim per se. And these two dots have got to connect for January. And it needs to be recognised that the children that are being trafficked are being trafficked from long-term foster care through illegal adoption agencies, yes, also by their own parents, and there has to be a zero tolerance on both sides. And the only way we can do that is to be better parents, to protect our children from ever being in this situation, and educating people about protecting children from sexual exploitation, child trafficking, grooming, and recognising that we are in a sexualisation period, and they are trying to bring back sodomy onto the streets. They are trying to bring back the acceptance and tolerance of things that go on in a bedroom, that what people do within the bedroom is up to them. But we used to live in a society of films being 18, 15, PG for a reason, and we do need to protect the innocence of children, and we have to, because if we don't, then the next generation, they've already fucked this generation up, but my children's generation and the ones slightly ahead of it haven't got a chance in hell of coming through this world without probably losing their virginity by like the ages of 11, and that's between the peers as well as becoming victims to adult prey. Do you know what I mean? So we've got to clean this shit up. We really have. We really do. We really. This is not Great Britain. This is not Great Britain, and this is not a Britain I want my boys to, or even my children that are out there, or even the fact that the influence it's got on the older boys, so yeah. And you're not going to find many countries around the world that aren't affected by it too. I could, just before I go, there's a great book called The Alchemist, and right at the end of the book, he ends up having to go all the way back to where he started. His pot of gold was where he started, because you can run away from your problems as much as you like, and it's like a string theory, it's like an elastic band theory, that the root of it will always keep snapping back. And I could probably find some plot of island land somewhere sacred, but I'm always going to be then in defense, because someone's going to want to come and take it, because that's the way the survival and thriving works. So I'd rather have a base here in the UK and travel the world, and just clean this shit up. So it's summer, it's festival season. I do believe that Glastonbury agreed to no plastics and left the place covered in shit. So it's time to clear up our own shit. It's time for the communities to come up and, you know, make sure that our places are decorated and painted, and, you know, go do your gardens, you know, go and clean up your streets, go and make this, you know, the streets safe for kids to come out and play, go clean up the litter at the rivers, you know, go and get communities of people to literally, you know, sorry to say it, but step up for Britain and put the fucking great back in it by being great people and doing great things, and then we can have Great Britain. Because as long as we are doing shitty things and causing shit to this world, then it's going to be shitty Britain, isn't it? So why can't communities come together with youth clubs and police and fire brigades to clean the waters and clear the seas and the rivers and say, no, this isn't tolerated in our community. We don't want sex shops in our villages. We don't want bookies and Wonga payday things on our streets. And yes, charity shops, but hang on, banks, you know, we've got to tie this shit down now. Do you know what I mean? It's time for us, the people, now to tell them what goes and what stays, what we tolerate and what we don't, what we're willing to accept, maybe online, but has to be locked down, or what needs to be controlled, what doesn't, what schools we want. Do we want gates on our kids' schools? Does it really need to be like this? Can it be different? Do we really need to move into securing our school kids into schools? You know, can we not really maybe have part-time schooling as well as full-time schooling? Can there not be a balance in this rather than sending our kids to school all the time? We have part-time work jobs, so can we not have part-time schooling and full-time schooling? That would be a good idea. We have it in nursery, but we don't have it in school. Homeschooling, whatever you want to call it. You know, we could literally just come together now, meet at our town halls, bring the communities together and vote for our own people, champions. You know, don't let them be the ones to say, let them stand up, but we the people sort of say, hang on, this is a local champion, or this person does a lot here, or this teacher is absolutely fucking outstanding. You know, we should be calling in the school governors and things like that, because it's been coming from their angle for way too long now, with internal electings and us maybe poking a little bit. We have to now have our whole communities down at the town halls telling people that this is what we want. We want bike paths, we want recycling, we want to do better for the planet, we want to do better for each other, we want to have safer places for children. We don't want this on the streets, or we're okay with this, and yes, this is how certain things need to go, and no, we're not going to have tax for this and tax for that. The Bible said 10% tithing over tax, you know. So it's up to us now to write down exactly what our terms and conditions are for living in peace and harmony with each other. And that's what I've got to say, really. So I'm going to go and drink the coffee, have a fag, and be a hypocrite. Catch you all later.